Hello everyone friends, thank you for checking out Bitcoin Adept. Today we will talk about the price of Bitcoin and our favorite altcoins, which drop even if Bitcoin experiences a slight dip, altcoins fall twice as hard. So I will now share my perspective on this whole situation. And why this happens? Let's first switch globally to the monthly chart, enable the logarithmic scale for Bitcoin, the Relative Strength Index, RSI, and let's approximately see where we might be in this cycle right now. You can see that Bitcoin had its peak values and the RSI also had the same peak values here. We have a downward trend over the years, but this downward trend is on the RSI. This doesn't really mean much. We only need these upper indicators. And right now, guys, we are at this lower part where Bitcoin has been before in previous cycles, after which we moved up to these values. This, guys, is regarding such global movements. Let's now switch to the daily chart. That is, we are interested in what values we are at now on the daily chart, specifically in terms of RSI, whether in overbought, in also or oversold conditions. And here you can see that we are at the very bottom of oversold. And if we estimate where we were before at these moments and understand where we moved after that, let's take a look a bit at the history. Here we reached the very bottom. Let's outline a certain zone with you before the start of the main bullish cycle, which began right here in January 2023. And guys, the lower value specifically in terms of RSI, this is the first one at the bottom when we were at the low. The next one is also very close. This is the initial correction. Further, guys, the presence right here, quite deep in terms of RSI. This is the drop right here in the prolonged correction, which lasted more than half a year. The next movement, well, there are two here, one next to the other. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. What was happening here? Here we were feeling out, you could say, a local bottom, and then dropped a bit lower. And now we have reached an RSI level, even lower than before. This concerns the medium-term prospects. And now let's move on. My view specifically on our situation, on our correction. Again, I will first take the movement and show a certain correlation that was specifically during Bitcoin corrections. This is our bottom, around $16,000, after which there was an upward movement, a downward correction, and then upward again, slightly higher than the previous value. And here we rolled down, probing for a more global bottom, meaning a more global key correction. Let's measure how much that was for us. Minus 23%, after which we moved with this correction upward. There was a prolonged pause here in the form of continued Bitcoin accumulation, after which again an upward movement. We again reached a locally maximum point, corrected, and came even higher. So the same situation is here before coming into this accumulation zone, after which again a correction quite a bit deeper than this point. Let's measure it. Again, how much it was in percentage. And here, the percentage ratio is slightly less, namely 21%. This is, we can say, the second one like this, intermediate correction, meaning the first was here, the second, this intermediate one, after the upward movement. In short, you can see all of this as well, right? Reaccumulation in Bitcoin. And after this, we again come to a similar intermediate correction. First, we reached the area of $107,000. Went down for a correction, yes, and then rose a bit higher. And now we have poured down and are where we are. $79,000. How much have we dropped from the maximum values, from the local maximum values? 37.9%? Is that a lot? Well, for Bitcoin, it's more or less normal, because in previous cycles we had these corrections, and up to a 40% drop. But with these drops, altcoins don't look very good right now. And I showed you these values to draw attention to these historical correlations, that Bitcoin has approximately the same scenarios. You can even use the bars pattern here. You can transfer this one entirely. Take it. Only here we had movements, small ones. Yes, if you look, especially on a non-logarithmic chart, it was plus or minus $1,000 here. Now we have a much stronger range, but the scheme itself remains the same. This manipulation, it is much broader, meaning the movement benchmarks are approximately, but guys, very similar. Yes, let's zoom in on this whole thing. The same upward movement, the blue chart is our previous one. These movements, then a move down, up again, a correction down, and then going higher. Some people associate this with some news background, but guys, it works a little differently. Every day, a huge number of news items come out, a million different news stories, and Bitcoin accordingly has some movements every day. And to somehow show you that all this depends on some news, meaning Bitcoin went down, and suddenly they pull up any news like something happened with the miners, and when Bitcoin goes up, they will definitely find another news story. Bitcoin stays in place, the news keeps coming out, but the news doesn't drive it, they only align it with Bitcoin's movement. In short, they create a situation where you think you can somehow manage your own. This forecast, depending on the news background. So you think, for example, if Donald Trump says this or that, then Bitcoin will go here or there. But the truth, actually, guys, is that Bitcoin simply moves in cycles, and these corrective movements or growth in Bitcoin are planned pumps and dumps on which people, many cannot withstand it, leave the market, sell Bitcoin or other altcoins, and during this time everything is bought up from these people, the price turns around and goes higher. And here, it seems like everything is clear, but where will we fall and from where will we recover? Obviously, I don't have an exact answer here. And here is just a supposition that Bitcoin will be dumped until many players exit the market from Bitcoin and altcoins. And not just with this, a one-time movement, and after Bitcoin recovers, it can be dumped again, which greatly affects the psyche of an inexperienced, you could say, investor. And all we can do is connect my signal indicators and look for the reversal moment that might occur. Let's connect the signal indicator. Bitcoin Adept buy and sell. We won't connect a bunch of signal indicators, just this one. Let's see. There was a sell signal on the daily chart, and we don't have any other signals at the moment. Let's click closer to our values. This is the 12-hour chart. So on the 12-hour, here, there was also a sell signal a long time ago from February 24th. While we are trending downwards, I am waiting for a signal, for example, to buy, then we can make some conclusions. On the 8-hour chart, there was such a buy signal. It was already there. We bounced back a little, but then it switched back to sell. And at the moment, there is no signal. I strongly recommend, as usual, to install all my signal indicators. This is absolutely free. And at the same time, participate in the giveaway of $1,000. Today is the last day, guys, February 28th. How to do this and who is it for? It's for those who have an account on the Bybit exchange. Go down to the video description, and here it says to go to the Adept for the $1,000 giveaway. And plus, you will also get free access to our exclusive trading chats and to all my signal indicators. Click on this official Bybit link, go to the partner community participation form, and here you can become my referral with an already existing Bybit exchange account. It won't cost you a penny. Enter my referral code 31329 here, write the reason I want to join the Adept. Click send on this page, you must be logged in beforehand, in your Bybit exchange account and participate in the $1,000 giveaway, which will be tomorrow on the Telegram channel. Yes, today is the last day to join, and in short, you also get access to these perks. So that's about Bitcoin and our signals. Now let's get closer to altcoins. Let's switch and connect. The chart of the capitalization of all altcoins, excluding the top 10, on CoinMarketCap. And here the situation looks like this. If we take the global history, we are gradually growing in capitalization. But these declines, of course, do not let us rest, are these giant declines in altcoins. And if we look at the indicators by adding the 100-day and 200-day moving averages on the weekly chart of this capitalization chart, we see that a crossover E of these moving averages is looming here. And this is the moment when the crossover initially went in the opposite direction. Now the yellow moving average, which is the 100-day moving average, is about to cross the 200-day moving average. And if we look at the previous cycle, how it was, the crossover occurred just before the growth. of all altcoins. Well, not all, but most, except for the top 10 on top CoinMarketCap. Or rather, on this chart, we are considering this tool. In fact, the other altcoins from the top 10 also surged upwards, but such patterns in short are present. Now let's connect the Ethereum chart, okay, in relation to Bitcoin. And here we see a situation where in the previous cycle there was a flow from Ethereum to Bitcoin. And on the chart, this results in an 89% drop, after which Ethereum grew in relation to Bitcoin in the pie when the last bull market occurred, especially towards its end. And then we had what you could call a distribution from Ethereum to Bitcoin. And now this chart has decreased by 70%. And this is to say that some altcoins are used precisely for such flows, either into Bitcoin or at some point the opposite. And one of the altcoins similar to Ethereum is Solana. In the previous video, I mentioned that I would touch on this point about Solana, that it is very similar to Ethereum. Specifically, its distribution into Bitcoin. You can see the moments when it was sold, so to speak, for Bitcoin. Of course, these values are not directly related to the sale of Solana for Bitcoin, but there is such a pattern. And from the peak values of the last cycle to the lowest, we also dropped by 89%. That is, there was a similar overflow. And now, guys, from the peak values, we have reached minus 47%. But for Ethereum, minus 0.69, almost minus 70%. That is, potentially Solana Wadi was pumped at some point from its low prices to the maximum of Bitcoin. Then they started transferring to Bitcoin, and possibly this transfer will continue for Solana at least up to these 70%. And here's the question. Will the big players, the whales, then transfer again? Exit from Bitcoin, for example, into Ethereum, or switch from Bitcoin to Solana? But if they have everything under control, if they are manipulating the market, then it is quite likely that this will continue. The same process of transferring, the same scheme. But if they currently need Bitcoin specifically, and they fear that by selling Bitcoin for Solana they might lose it, then at some point these transfers might stop. And this is regarding altcoins. Could Ethereum and Solana or Bitcoin and altcoins follow a different scenario? Of course, guys, anything can happen. You might wake up in the morning, as I often say, and Bitcoin could be worth 0 rubles and 0 kopecks, and the same goes for altcoins. But for now, all these movements in our history are happening and they don't always fit. For example, into this signal indicator, here you see we have moved significantly upwards. Before this, we were trading for a long time below the support level, below the signal line of this indicator. But my approximate targets are that we will eventually reach this upper unloading zone. Because this is how big players and whales make money. Is it worth buying Bitcoin now, guys? I haven't been buying Bitcoin or any old coins at these values for a long time. Many of you who watch my channel, yes, my videos, bought it in the range from $15,500 to $30,000. As for altcoins, I only leave a small portion of my funds just to play around because these are very high risk assets. You can see it yourself, yes, when Bitcoin's movement even slightly goes down, but now it's not just slightly. But you understand, right? Altcoins fall even more. Therefore, I kind of understand people because having, for example, small deposits like $1,000, $10,000, $50,000, there it only remains to play with high-risk assets. There's no point in entering Bitcoin at some average price, although that would be more correct. But no, people decide to increase their deposit this way. I will probably release a separate video on this topic. How the size of the deposit generally affects decision-making in investments or trading in crypto. A very interesting topic, because if the deposit is small, the risks will be very high. There will be people try in every way to earn, yes, many or multiples, but the larger the deposit, the easier it is to earn on low risk assets. And that's why the majority of people, for example, 99% of people are shouting everywhere, for instance, crypto scam. Bitcoin scam, some other altcoin scams trading, all in loss. But those people who have the right approach to investments, that's one. And secondly, maybe the person simply has a large amount of funds. Or if it's both, then the person is very likely to end up in profit. But that's okay, guys. That's another topic for a video that I will cover a bit later. That's all for now. Subscribe to this YouTube channel if you want to hear my thoughts on the price of Bitcoin and the altcoins. Also, join me on the Bybit exchange, that is, become my referral. Today, I remind you, is the last day to participate in the $1,000 giveaway, which will take place tomorrow on the Telegram channel. And at the same time, receive a free bonus to our private trading chats, where people, participants and traders share their trades made on the exchange, access to all my signal indicators, there are about 8 of them, and a large amount of trading literature. Thank you to everyone who watched this video to the end. Goodbye everyone.